Welcome to Stack Kings Live at 5. We have Week 1 NFL edition. I'm fired up. I know Frank right here is. We started the NFL season off last night with the Hawks and the Packers. I don't know if you saw Marshawn Lynch. He was running like a wild man.
He was in beast mode, I'll tell you that.
Carrying tacklers everywhere. We have an awesome show for you today. Should be lots of valuable players to put in your lineup. So let's get right to it. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about the new type of way we're going to do things on the show. First of all, we're going to talk about our value player, which is our top player on the board for each position. That's the guy that gives you the best value bang for your buck. Then we're going to give you our dark horse, which is a guy that's going to be under a certain percentage of salary. So, for example, quarterbacks and anybody under $13,000. For running backs and position players, it's under $8,000. So let's get right into it. My first quarterback, Matt Ryan, $15,012, playing the New Orleans Saints. With the improved offensive line, I think he's going to have a lot of time in the pocket to throw the ball. He's averaging 293 yards passing for the Saints over the last 2 years. Julio Jones is back and healthy, and basically Steven Jackson is horrendous. The guy is running like he's got cement boots on his feet. He's too old. He can't establish any sort of running game. I don't care how good the offensive line is. They're going to have to go to the pass early and often. There's no Tony G anymore, so they're going to be hacking it downfield. And I think Matt Ryan's going to rack up a lot of yards, maybe 300 plus, 2 touchdowns at least. That's for at least what I'm thinking. Not to mention, Drew Brees is going to be a scoring freak tonight. They should put up at least 30 points against the Atlanta Falcons, which is going to get into a shootout, so that should help Matt Ryan with his passing yards. And what do you got?
We're expecting some big points from that game.
Absolutely.
No question about it. For my top value at quarterback, I have Colin Kaepernick against the Dallas Cowboys. He's at $14,031. Notwithstanding some early preseason team growing pains, the Niners are not expected to continue the woes that they've experienced in the preseason. They're also going up against a very inadequate defense in the Cowboys, who ranked near the bottom last year.
Pathetic.
In defense. To be specific, the Cowboys surrendered 20.3 fantasy points to quarterbacks last year on average to quarterbacks. If it's anything like that, it could be a big day for Colin Kaepernick. His escapability, his poise in the pocket, he could really do some damage against America's team Sunday, who are really sorely lacking on the defensive side of the ball with their missing the likes of Ware and Lee and Lawrence and Hatcher. They have a lot of ground to make up, and I don't think they're going to be able to make it up against Kaepernick. He's too dynamic.
Yeah.
He's got Vernon Davis, and he's got some weapons with Gore. We'll get to those players later. But yeah, Kaepernick, I think, is shine. No question about it.
I agree. You know, the Dallas defense was historically bad last year, and I think Kaepernick goes up as a great matchup to start the year.
Absolutely.
He can really get off on the right foot if he does something well. I like that pick a lot. I really do. I'm going to jump to my my actually below 13,000 pick at quarterback. So this is a guy that maybe you might use as a flex, or if you don't like any of the top guys, put this guy in. And I'm really digging deep here. Sean Hill.
Oh my gosh.
Sean Hill.
Sean who?
Sean Hill. Sean Hill, that's right. He used to play for Detroit. He was a backup. He's actually a pretty good quarterback. He's playing the Vikings, who were the 31st worst defense in the league against the pass last year. He's a career 85.9 passer rating and a 61.9 completion percentage, which is pretty good for a backup. I really think this guy could do something. He's got Tavon Austin running these short routes. He can definitely get the ball to him. The Vikings are definitely going to focus on Zach Stacy, trying to take him out of the game. And I think with Kenny Britt and Brian Quick and Jared Cook, the tight end, running the long routes, I think he can do something. I think 250 and a TD is not out of the question for this guy.
There's no question the Vikings, their pass defense last year was very lackluster. No question. For my dark horse pick, below 13,000, I have Geno Smith.
Wow.
Geno Smith.
Geno.
This is somewhat of a radical pick, guys. He's going up against the Oakland Raiders. He's priced at 11,341. If you're going to take Geno Smith anytime this year, it might be week 1, because after that, Michael Vick could be there.
I agree.
He could be right there to take over the Geno show, no question
Absolutely.
about it. Why I picked Geno Smith, he's going up against last year's 28th ranked defense in the Oakland Raiders, so he might be able to exploit some plays with his feet and also with his arm. But I think nothing more than a flex option here, guys.
Yeah.
I don't think that you're going to want to put him as a quarterback one. There's just too many good guys on the board. But last year, towards the tail end of the season, he did show some NFL caliber competence at quarterback position, but nothing more than a flex option.
I agree. He did add Eric Decker, which helps a little bit, so he's got another weapon there. So we'll see what he does. I don't like that's not a bad play at flex, absolutely. We're going to move on to running back. My value pick, who I think is the best play on the board, is Matt Forte, and here's the reason. He's playing the Bills, who are horrendous. They're just absolutely terrible, and part of the reason that they're terrible is E.J. Manuel is even more terrible. This guy is throwing duck hooks into the ground on slant plays. I've been watching him all preseason. He's been horribly bad, and I just don't see how the Bills can have any chance to stay in this game. And if they don't, it's going to be a big second half for Forte. If they're up 20 points, up 15 points in the second half, it's going to be a lot of running. Cutler's healthy. Again, they should be leading the game, and then you got to think Forte is going to be in all 3 downs. So 25 plus touches is pretty easy to count on. I like Forte. He's my top running back.
I really like Forte as well. I think this Chicago Bears offense is so dynamic on the receiving end, running the ball, that Trestman has really got the show running there in Chicago. For my top value at running back, I have Monte Ball. And now this is a pick going up against Indianapolis, and he's priced at $13,163. You know, he hasn't showed us a whole lot so far, but then again, he has Peyton Manning giving him a handoff. So you've seen before Peyton Manning how he can transform running backs. Just look at Noshawn Moreno.
Yep.
My concern with Monte Ball is his pass protection in the previous years, or last year at least. But however, again, he has Peyton Manning handing him the ball. He has Peyton Manning's going to be throwing the ball over the place. It's going to open up the run game. I think they could really he can exploit this Indianapolis Colts team.
I completely agree. The safeties are going to have to play back on Peyton. That's going to open up the running game and the running lanes for Monty. I watched a lot of tape of him in college. I always thought he was an NFL caliber running back. He has good cut moves. He has side-to-side action. He can break tackles. I think that's a great play, especially against Indianapolis, who really has no running game whatsoever, and they should really be getting beaten this game. If Denver's up 15, 20 points, like I said, then they're going to give it the ball.
And if you think Ball is just good in running the ball, he can actually catch too. I mean, if you turn your attention to the last 7 games of last season, he hauled in 18 of 22 targets. So he has some hands too. And who would you rather have than throwing the ball than Peyton Manning?
I absolutely agree. And
arguably the best quarterback in the league. So Monte Ball, his stock has definitely risen with the acquisition of Peyton Manning.
He's been going in the first round in drafts, so you got to think everybody's on him. But there's a reason. He's good.
That's right.
My dark horse, who's going to be under 8,000. This guy is definitely a sleeper, but also I'm digging deep again here. LeGarrette, the knockout Blount. Wow, he's playing the Browns. He does have Le'Veon Bell in front of him, but I think Pittsburgh is going to get a lead in this game, and they're going to go to the running game. Let me little tidbits on Blount. Number one, he's a career 4.7 yards a carry, and he averaged 5 yards a carry in 2013. That's a really, really good average. It's above average NFL running back, especially at 4.7 in his career. That's an above average NFL running back. He is the goal line back, so they should be taking Bell inside the 5, and they really don't have a lot of red zone weapons. Wheaton is more of a deep runner for Pittsburgh. Antonio Brown is more of a deep and cross runner. So inside the 5, I think they're going to have to give it to Blount. I also think, like I said, Pittsburgh should be leading in this game in the second half. I don't expect a lot of action from this guy, but if he gets 10 plus carries, he could get a touchdown and maybe 50 yards, and I think at that price, it's worth it.
Now, at my dark horse, below 8,000, I have Mark Ingram going up against the Atlanta Falcons. We've already mentioned before that the Atlanta Falcons, their front is a little sketchy. So it's at 7,278. I think that a much trimmer Mark Ingram, also quicker, not to mention, can do some damage. No question about it. Yes, he will be splitting carries with Pierre Thomas and also with Robinson. But I think his hard work over the summer may pay off. You may recall that he had a pretty good preseason as well, to the tune of 22 carries for 156 yards and a touchdown, including 2 20-yard plus runs. So Another guy who's dynamic, who can hurt you running the ball and also out in catching the ball as well and in getting upfield. So Mark Ingram at 7,000.
I was really surprised. You know, Ingram came into the league. He was pretty much a sloth getting through the hole. He would get 2 to 3. He looked like Trent Richardson of last year for the most part. He dropped 20 to 30 pounds, and he really looks quick in the preseason.
He really does.
He definitely looks like a different back. He's got power. He seems to have some speed back. I like that pick, Frank. That's a sneaky pick, and I think you should keep your eye on him. He could be good this year.
And exactly, moving forward, not just week 1, but week 2, week 3, and so on, he could be taking most of the carries for the Saints.
I'm going to throw in one more guy. This is Andre Ellington has a foot injury. He's been ruled out for the first week. So if you want to throw in a guy that's going to be getting a lot of carries, I just want to throw in Jonathan Dwyer at 6,800.
Wow.
He's going to be starting.
Okay.
There's really nobody else behind him. He should get 20-plus carries in this game on Monday night. So for 6,800, Jonathan Dwyer is a guy you can throw in there just if you have nobody else. And if Ellington, of course, is not playing, so you know he's going to be getting carries and touches. And that's really all you need in the NFL is guys that are getting touches. So we're going to be right back after 15 seconds with the wide receivers and tight ends.
StatKings.com is the #1 new daily fantasy sports site. Sign up today and we'll give you 1 free entry into a real NFL cash contest. Do you have what it takes to become fantasy sports royalty?
We're back, and we'd like to thank Nikki Farrell for that. That was a great little video she did, and who does not love Nikki Farrell, right? I mean, come on.
Have to agree there.
We're going to wide receiver. Dez Bryant is my pick. Gosh, the guy's an absolute monster. He's playing the 49ers. Dallas's defense is really bad. That's one of the reasons I like this guy. They're really going to be in a shootout for pretty much for the whole game. It's not Romo's healthy. Dallas has one of the best offensive lines in the league, so they should have a lot of time to throw the ball. I know they're going to be double teaming him, but this guy is dynamic enough to get open against anybody. I like him for 100 yards and 1 or 2 TDs this week at least. And when I say at least 100 yards, I think 1 or 2 TDs should come around as well. He's going to get at least 12 to 14 targets for sure. So Dez Bryant's my guy. I expect him to get fed the ball early and often. Scott Linehan is the guy running the show now, and he is going to be throwing deep to Dez. And that's who I like. It's my value pick of receiver.
My value pick, I mentioned I like the Bears. One of them is a Bear, and that is Alshon Jeffrey going up against the Buffalo Bills. He is priced at $11,197. If you turn your attention to last year, if you remember back, Cutler and Jeffrey, the connection, it wasn't really there. At least it paled in comparison to that of McCown and Jeffrey. But I think that Cutler's going to warm up to Jeffrey this year. Trestman's not going to limit the stock rising South Carolina product in Jeffrey. He's just too talented. Yes, you have Brandon Marshall. Yes, you have Martellus Bennett, who I'll get to later. But as a third option, you can't rule out Alshon Jeffrey. He's, again, a very dynamic player. And last year, you know, at times you had to flip a coin as to who you were going to pick. Were you going to pick Marshall? Were you going to pick Jeffrey? Well, I think the determinant today, or at least for this week, is going to be Jeffrey because he is cheaper. He is cheaper there. So if you're looking for value there, Jeffrey might be a better value than Marshall. Both probably are going to have great performances because you have Cutler slinging you the ball, and again, as I mentioned, in great offense and an improving O-line. But I would take Jeffrey.
And this guy is a beast. I mean, he's got great hands. He can run great routes. He seems to be just exploding in the league. Mm-hmm. I like that pick a lot. I think this guy's an up-and-coming player, so I like Alshon Jeffries as well. Going to my second value pick at receiver, it's going to be Keenan Allen versus the Cardinals at $10,000, $10,023 actually. Arizona's really good against the run, and I just think Allen, I've watched Keenan Allen on tape, and he looks just like he can get open against anybody. I know he's going to be having Patrick Peterson guarding him, but I do think they're going to run him on some cross routes and stuff. I like him for 6, 7 catches, 100 yards, maybe a TD, definitely in that range. I also feel like this is going to be a shootout, and so when it comes to a shootout, I like Rivers to be throwing the ball, and if he's going to be throwing the ball, it's going to be to Allen. So I like Allen, 100 yards, a TD this week for sure.
Well, I have a player on the opposite side, and that's Michael Floyd.
Yeah.
Michael Floyd going up against San Diego. He's at 8.1K. San Diego, 29th ranked pass defense last year. They have improved, though, or I believe they will improve with the acquisitions of Brandon Flowers and Jason Verrett. However, you have Michael Floyd, a player who's often overshadowed by Larry Fitzgerald, time and time again, but actually led in vertical targets last year as well as in vertical receiving yards. So he's a guy who, at the end of the day, probably might even outscore in terms of fantasy points a Larry Fitzgerald. So Michael Floyd going up against San Diego, I think, is a very good pick. But
he's coming close to wide receiver 1 right now, meaning that he could be a top 10, top 5 receiver. And Carson Palmer's got a lot of weapons, and he throws the ball downfield. So I do like that pick a lot, absolutely.
And you might be able to anticipate that Larry Fitzgerald might be coming down a little bit in terms of his production. Still a very valuable receiver, but in terms of his early year, he's probably out of his prime.
Fitzgerald's more of a red zone target now, kind of a possession receiver type. I think this guy's Floyd's a lot more dynamic and run down the field and catch long passes. You have one more value pick before?
I do have one more value pick. There's so many good receivers to choose from this week. I had Marquise Colston going up against the Atlanta Falcons at 8.1K. Here's a guy who is grossly underrated. He has Drew Brees, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league, throwing the ball. You know Jimmy Graham, you know Brandon Cooks. These guys have been hyped up. You know about the Jimmy Graham contract. You know that he's the best player at his position. But Marquise Colston is a guy who's just kind of left out, but he still has some play in him. He's the healthiest he's been for years, and he will have Drew Brees throwing the ball, who we know from years past is a very liberal thrower. He likes to share the wealth over there in New Orleans. Definitely. So I think Marquise Colston at 8.1K could be a sleepy pick, and I thought it was worth mentioning.
I like Colston a lot this year. I definitely think that he could do 80, 90 catches, another 1,000-yard season, 10 touchdowns. Of course, when you look at receivers, you got to look at the quarterback, who's getting in the ball. Drew Brees, if he throws for another 5,000 yards this year, it's got to go to somebody. Colston's going to be one of the big contributors on that team.
Sure.
I like Colston, especially this week.
And let's just reiterate that he is facing, again, a Falcons defense that is suspect this year. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to go to my dark horse, which is under 8,000, and this guy is a steal this week. And he'll be jumping up on the board. It's Emmanuel Sanders.
So I have.
Of course you do. Emmanuel Sanders. With Welker not playing, Peyton Manning's going to have to throw a ball to somebody. This is really the only guy there other than Julius Thomas and Demaryius Thomas. Those are going to be the two big targets, and then it's going to be Emmanuel Sanders. Peyton likes his slot guys. Emmanuel should be lining up in the slot a lot. If you look at the past slot guys, Welker, Stokely, he likes to feed those guys the ball. So I like Emmanuel for at least 5 catches, almost close to 100 yards and a touchdown this weekend. At 72-18, that's a steal.
You really can't go wrong. I really think he's a very sneaky play, a very sneaky value, and expect Sanders' hands to be very sore after the game.
Yeah,
he's going to be reeling in a lot of balls.
I would think so, absolutely, no question. And with that, we're going to go to tight ends. My top pick of the week, value pick, of course, is Jordan Cameron, the big man from the Cleveland Browns. He's going to be going against the Steelers. Really, this pick is more no Josh Gordon. Brian Hoyer is not the best quarterback in the world. There's no question about that, but he can get the ball to his tight ends, especially Jordan Cameron, who has a lot of leaping ability. He can get open. This guy's the most dynamic weapon they have on their team, and I fully expect them to be behind against the Steelers. And with Ben Roethlisberger doing the hurry up, I think this game could be extended, and I just think Cameron is going to be the guy that they're going to go to. At $9,000, I like him a lot at tight end. I think he could go for 5-6 catches, 100 yards at least, and a touchdown, maybe 2, and when they get in the red zone. But besides that, really, I just don't think there's anybody else on the team that they can go to when they go to the passing game. So that's why I like Jordan Cameron.
That is a good pick. I've been picking on the Bills today. You know that.
They're terrible.
Well, it's well been made that I've been picking on the Bills. Okay. And I love the Chicago Bears. And here's another guy going up against the Bills, and that's Martellus Bennett. Martellus Bennett at tight end. He's priced at 8.3K. I really like him. He's going to be receiving balls from the wild Midwest ball-slinging arm of Jay Cutler.
That's right.
Who can be erratic at times, but he likes Bennett. Years have proven that. The Bills, surprisingly, were actually a top defensive team last year. They really were, and that was in little part to Kiko Alonso, who's now out for the year with a torn ACL. so he won't be there to cover Bennett, who I feel is going to reel in some catches. You look at the statistical trends, and he moving forward in the year may not be as good as previous years with him at the Cutler-Bennett connection, but I think that for week one he could be a really good option there in the dynamic Chicago Bears receiving corps.
And they're going to have a good offense this year. They're going to be moving the ball. If they get anywhere in the red zone, Bennett's a great weapon, especially if they double team Marshall, if they double team Jeffries. Bennett should be running all over the middle of the field, in my opinion. Plus Forte out of the backfield. There's just too many guys to cover, and you can't cover them all.
Can't do it.
Going to my dark horse, which is under 8,000. It's Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. This guy has been talked about like crazy all over fantasy.
Yes, hi. Sure.
He's a tall guy. He's fast. He's explosive. People are making Gronk comparisons. I know that's a high horse to ride, but I still feel like the guy can do something and do something this week, especially with Dwayne Bowe out. I don't see anybody else. First of all, let's talk about Alex Smith. Alex Smith doesn't throw the ball past 15 yards, okay? He just doesn't. He doesn't like to, and he won't. And that's why he doesn't throw any interceptions, because he doesn't throw the ball deep ever, really, for the most part.
He's a conservative passer.
So if Kelce can get open on these 10, 15-yard little slants and crosses, I think he could have a big day. I think they're going to run a lot of two tight end sets. Everybody's going to be focusing on Charles, and when they do, Kelce should be left open for a few little passes on outs and ins. And I think that he can get the ball, break tackles, and take it to the house. So I like him. I think he could catch 5 passes and maybe get 70 yards. And at that price, I think that's a great play.
I do like that play a lot. For my dark horse at below 8,000, I have Jared Cook going up against the Minnesota Vikings, 7.9K. Here's a guy with freakish athleticism. He has all the potential in the world. He has struggled to gain separation as a receiver. He is going to have Sean Hill throw him the ball, who you like. So he might be an option there. I don't see him as a strong play, but I think because he plays such an integral role in the St. Louis Rams' offense, you have to like him because he's going to be looked at. There are not many other people to look at. You have maybe Kenny Britt. But other than that, the St. Louis Rams offense is quite limited, and I think Jared Cook, just out of sheer use, could be a sneaky play, perhaps in a flex option in your guys' lineups.
Jared Cook's dynamic, and I think Hill can get him the ball, so I like that pick a lot. I definitely do. We'll be right back after this 15-second break.
StatKings.com is the #1 new daily fantasy sports site. Sign up today, and we'll give you 1 free entry into an MLB contest for real cash. Do you have what it takes to become fantasy sports royalty?
Back from break. We have just a little thing that Frank's going to tell you right before we start our
a little announcement. If you want to optimize your StatKings.com experience, make sure you download Google Chrome.
Absolutely. Google is a partner of ours, and
Sure.
Google Chrome is a great browser to use, especially with StatKings.com. We've optimized it for that, and it works great with that. So let's move on. We're going to go to kickers. Really, the reason I picked this guy, Sean Swisham.
Tongue twister.
It is a Pittsburgh kicker. He plays against the Browns, and let's just talk about the Browns. They're just terrible. Hoyer is bad. Ben Tate is really their only chance to get any yards on the ground. The Steelers are going to stuff the line. They're going to put 8 men in the box, and I just don't see them scoring a lot of points, which is going to leave Swisham and the Pittsburgh offense with a lot of opportunities to be in the red zone and to be scoring. And especially if you're up in games, you don't want kickers when you're behind. You want kickers when you're up.
Sure.
So I like him going against the Cleveland Browns, and really that's the only reason I like him, is because he's going against the Browns. I think Pittsburgh really puts a hurting on the Browns this week and Swisham to get 10+ points.
I'm becoming more and more of a Chicago Bears fan.
Wow.
I know I sound like a broken record, but
Man.
yet another.
Go Ditka.
Another. That's right. 85 Bears. I have to pick another Bear here, and for kicker, and that's Robbie Gould, the golden foot of Robbie Gould, and 6.6K going up against the Buffalo Bills. Hey, it's easy logic, okay? You have the Bears who are going to be dynamic scorers on Sunday, and it's only natural that you're going to have a kicker who's going to score highly. So no further explanation. Robbie Gould is my kicker.
Wow, I like that. I do, definitely. That's a good pick. I'm going to go to defense. I have one defense. It's the New York Jets. They're all the way down at $3,655, $3,655. They're playing the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders are terrible, okay? Terrible. They have a starting rookie quarterback, which I love starting defenses against rookie quarterbacks, especially the first start of his career, and Derek Carr. The guy likes to throw deep, which is going to open up some interception opportunities. He'll definitely be holding on to the ball a little bit longer. The Jets have a great front seven. They're going to be stuffing the run. Maurice Jones-Drew has probably had his last days in the NFL. He looked just slow to me. I just don't think he's near the running back he used to be. So I think the Jets shut him down, which leaves Carter to start throwing it all over the place. And I think that's just going to be trouble. And I just think there could be a lot of sacks and interceptions racked up by the Jets this week. And so that's why I like the Jets defense.
And for my defense special teams pick, you touched on it a little earlier about the Browns, how they really are just full of voids. They have holes all in them. You have Josh Gordon, who's gone. They're
Swiss
really,
cheese.
They're really going to miss him. In two meetings last year against the Steelers, the Browns scored a combined 18 points.
Wow.
In 2 games. Okay, and that was with Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
And now you have an improved Steelers team on paper, and you have a Cleveland Browns team who got worse on paper. So, again, easy logic. You have the Steelers, who historically play well against the Browns, and I don't see that changing. Again, you have Jordan Cameron as the only savior of the Cleveland Browns. Okay, he's valued just as high as LeBron in that city.
Absolutely.
Okay, right now, when it comes to football. So there's nobody else. I mean, they're watching game tape as we speak, and they're targeting Jordan Cameron, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think, and Cleveland struggled in the preseason. So I continue their woes. I believe that their woes will continue, rather, and that in Week 1 you will see a Pittsburgh Steelers team who scores highly in the points column. No question about it. And
to go along with that, Brian Hoyer's not only going to be the quarterback for the first 2-3 weeks. It's only a matter of time, unless he starts lighting it up like Peyton Manning, which it's not going to happen. So I think you see Johnny Football by week 3 or 4. I think Johnny Manziel is also a dynamic guy that can run and pass the ball.
Yes.
I'm not saying he could be the best NFL quarterback, but I just think he's the best chance for the Browns to win now. And without him in, I think it just limits them, especially if they can shut down Ben Tate. So I really like that pick with the Steelers defense. So that'll do it for the show. I'm Tony Badalico. This is Frank Travis.
remember, do your research and choose your team wisely if you want to become fantasy sports royalty. See you guys later from Kansas City, Missouri.
We're out, guys.